Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So it's taking me a while to make this video because it's not going to be very positive, and I don't like to be negative. I want to preface this by saying Singapore Airlines is a great airline. We had a great flight about 10 days earlier than this one. This one just didn't stand the mark, so stick around to the end of the video and I'll explain the little things that I went wrong and why, I just wasn't overall thrilled about this flight. Welcome to Voyager Smith. In 2024, my wife and I sold our house and all of our belongings and left for Thailand from the United States with our 2 Labrador retrievers. Join us as we review all of our travel and talk about our experiences living abroad. And if you find this information useful, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Now enjoy the video. So our first trip was to the Silvercrest Lounge in Sydney. It's a nice lounge. It's not quite as nice as the one in Singapore, which is its flagship, so that kind of makes sense, but it's nice. It had good food offerings, and it had a barista because the Australians are crazy with their coffee culture. They love it, and it shows because their coffee is fantastic there. Anyways, if you've ever tried to book directly on Singapore Airlines website using points, I used 70,000 points for each one of these flights. I did price the flight out, and it was about $2,400 for each ticket, just one way from Sydney to Singapore. So not a cheap flight, but every time I've tried to do it on Singapore's website, I always got a waitlisted thing, which I've heard terrible things about, so I have never booked it. But for this flight and our previous flight, which took us from Singapore down to Adelaide, I booked through Air Canada, and there was no waitlisting, and it was 70,000 points for basically each leg of the flight. So total I paid 280,000 points for my wife and I to fly round trip from Singapore to Australia. And I was really anticipating this flight because this is an A380. It's a whale. This is the third one we've flown on in the last year and a half, and they're great planes. Super quiet, especially if you're lucky enough to have a business class seat. So anyways, as you can see, the lounge is pretty well equipped. It's got, your typical champagnes and white wine, red wine. There's beer. Also a big coffee bar. There's our plane for the day. I was never able to get the whole number, so I'm not sure how old it was, but more on that later. Just be aware, this was not one of their newer aircraft, to be sure. So our first plane was a 787, and I'll leave a link to that review down below. I found the seat on that, Singapore used those for regional flights. I found the seat kind of restrictive. The side of the seat that faced the center was pretty vertical, and so I finally figured out I had to sit kind of at an angle. The A380's business class seat is much bigger. It's roomier. I know there's a lot of people that don't like them because apparently if you have to sleep, you have to kind of sleep diagonally in them, but we were flying on a daytime flight, leaving at around 12, I think, and then getting into Singapore at like 5. So it was fine. I love this footrest. It was super comfortable to throw my feet on top of and kick back. But yeah, it was good. You had a remote control, and then they gave you these weird ear coverings for the headphones in case you're paranoid about that. I didn't use them, but their IFE system was good on the A380. It was identical to the 787. Like I said, I'll go ahead and I'll leave the link to that previous video, which is very positive, by the way, in the description below.
Here we have the amenity kit, labeled by Lelabo, not sure how to pronounce it. It's a canvas bag, very cute. And it's a little scarce inside, but you have a hand pomade, hand cream, a lip balm, a face mist, I'm guessing. I'm not sure what this is. A plastic bag for something. And that's about it. That was it.
No earplugs?
No. Nope.
Interesting.
Yeah. Tiny, but it's a cute little bag.
Okay, so here's a look at the business class menu for this flight. This would have been a great menu if it actually worked or represented what we got. Feel free to freeze the camera. My wife and I did book the cook, which is wherein lies the first problem with this. She ordered the filet and I ordered the Angus beef with peppercorn sauce. We were both delivered the same meal and we were never asked what temperature we wanted, so we got them both well done. That burrata salad was actually excellent. That was probably the best meal on board. But you can see the steak is like very well done. It was almost inedible. So I'll get more to that at the end of the video. The bathrooms were nice. They were clean. You know, they had payout amenities. I don't know what that means. They also had a nice cabinet that had extra razors and things like that. You can see right here in case you forgot something and you wanted to use it. So all in all, not bad. So here's where I get to the material condition of the plane. This is the center divider between my wife and I's seat. And then this little pocket cabinet here would not lock the entire time. So you couldn't put anything in it for takeoff because it would go flying out of the plane. Okay, so first of all, let me say that Singapore Airlines flight attendants and crew were fantastic. They were, except for the mental lapses, they were so polite and so nice and just really, really good. But let me tell you a few of the things that happened on the flight so you understand why I said this flight was not what I expected. A flight attendant asked my wife to confirm that she'd ordered a cheeseburger on board with Book the Cook, but she'd ordered the filet mignon. Then another flight attendant stopped by to ask her what kind of wine she wanted, and my wife said, "I'll have the Australian Shiraz." 5 minutes later, another flight attendant came down and talked to her and said, "We're out of the white wine you wanted." And my wife looked at her and said, "I asked for the Australian Shiraz." As I said before, we both ordered Book the Cook. My wife ordered the filet and I ordered the Angus beef with green peppercorn sauce. We were presented with identical meals and both were very well done and almost inedible. We were never asked what temperature we wanted. Finally, I asked for gin and tonic after the meal and it came with like 2 ice cubes and no lime. Now, this could seem very nitpicky, but if you're paying $2,400 for a flight, you really expect them to get your order right, for them to ask you what temperature you want a steak cooked. It's the little things. And then the material condition of the plane. You know, you saw the center partition between my wife and I's seat. Singapore Airlines is consistently ranked number 1 or number 2. It goes back and forth with Qatar. I've flown Qatar in business class twice in the last year and a half, and both times were very consistent. This was not. Our flight, you know, earlier to Adelaide was fantastic in business class, and I was really riding a cloud looking forward to this flight. But then these little lapses in service and mistakes just really hurt this. So would I book Singapore Air business class again with my points? Probably not, just because it's a lot of points, and if they're not consistent, you know, you just expect a little bit better. If you combine that with the anemic amenity kit and the fact that they don't give pajamas on long-haul flights, it's not worth it. Anyways, I hope you found this informative, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks, everyone.